this isn't good. So I woke up to this. Tank is like cloudy. Noticed the two anemones were gone. I was like, oh no. Did they get stuck? And guess what? They did. They got stuck on the gyres. I'm surprised both of them got stuck. So it's been shredded to a piece, and then there's a piece up there. And then I pulled out whatever was left of the anemone right there. So, oh boy. So now I gotta rethink about these gyre settings and also the anemones, just because I know that, you know, once they get their footing down, they're good, but because I was introducing them into this rock here, I think this area back there was a little bit too high flow for them. So they probably didn't get a good leg in, and they probably were trying to move, and once they were moving, they were just getting blown around by the gyres. You can kind of see one of the legs over here. It got shredded. That's unfortunate. But I went ahead and tested for the ammonia, because obviously it's just junk everywhere. And we still have the carbon in here, so that's gonna help. I'm gonna do a small water change because we got stuff in here that is from the anemone. I'm gonna do a small water change just because we have bits and guts of the anemones flying all over, which is unfortunate. I'll probably end up doing initially when we get a couple of them in here, is we'll introduce them in here. It's calmer water, let them establish in the rock, use the parameters. Once they're used to the rocks and parameters, we'll move them up here. Another thought I was gonna possibly do is just put them into those buckets over there, or those baskets, and then kind of let them float around, figure out, you know, where they like, and then just keep them that way until they are established. I think that they do come with guards for the gyres. I have to look at the guards to see if it's something I want to put in for the Nems, because yeah, they got shredded. I mean, the guards on here are pretty small anyways, so I'm surprised that they got stuck and ripped up like that. But yeah, we'll have to look into what we can do there to try to prevent that from happening in the future. Like I said, most likely I'll put them down here into the baskets first or something like that. First, you know, when we're introducing them to this tank. But yeah, let me do this water change real quick. All right, and this is a few hours after the water change. It was a very small water change, maybe like 5%, 10%, not even. Trying to save that piece of anemone down there. Obviously, if it does, you know, not open up or just start to like kind of die, I'll remove it, but the footing itself is still pretty good. It's holding on to a little thing down there, so I'm gonna try to save it. Try to. We'll see what happens actually, to be honest. I checked the box. We don't actually have, I checked the box. There isn't a guard for this, so I ended up ordering a guard. I took a 3D printed guard for it. We'll see how that works out. It looks like the guard was like, the holes are a lot smaller, so it just can't get wrapped up in there. So we'll get that in there. But today, we got this in the mail. This is the lids for the tank. So I've been running this temporary lid from Home Depot. It's probably the cheapest thing that you can get without having, you know, your fish jump out. We got the lids in. I had ordered these about a month ago. It came in literally like a month later. So pretty fast built. Turnaround time, it said anywhere from like a month to like a month and a half. But it came out to be a month, so I'm pretty happy about it. It comes in 3 pieces here. I'm gonna take this apart, remove the top, and then put it in, and then I'll show you guys the actual final thing. All right, so here it is. Here's the lid. This is from Clearview Lids. This is just one of the pieces I had undone. Here's the other lids up top. I have not put them on yet. I'm just kind of letting them out. Had to remove a bunch of the stuff around there, and so everything looks clean. Alrighty, so here's the lid on top of the tank. It is looking nice. So the fitment is actually pretty dang spot on. I would say some of the corners here, it doesn't sit completely down just because there is some silicone, for example, like here. Like, I mean, if you push it, it'll go in. Other than that, I mean, I think over time, it'll sit down or just kind of just sit there. But I mean, for the most part, I would say it's pretty good for just, you know, the fitment wise. The only one thing was I kind of changed my mind like midway with these gyres. Originally I had them over here, Then I decided to move them over here a little bit more just because it's more centered this way. So the wiring is kind of like off to the side here versus like I should have had it like over here, which is fine because I could just run it like this. But if I do ever change my mind down the road though, it's just this one piece that I just need to order here. And they can just easily like order this piece and just have a new cutout that's like dead center here. And again, I'm not really sure where this is gonna sit finally. So again, like it just happened to have the basket here, this thing, it just sits perfectly. But I might end up moving it over here more and removing the baskets. I'm not really sure. Maybe down the road, once I kind of figure out how I like it, then maybe I'll order a piece down the road. But really right now, it doesn't really matter to me. It's fine. So my cutouts were pretty basic. I just have one wire here, one wire there for the gyres. I have two of the large feeder doors. There is a smaller version of it where it's just like maybe half the size, a little bit more or less. And I figured I want the big one just because if I want to stick my hand in here and do something, it's just easier. It is 3 lids, so technically I can just pop it off and just do whatever I need to and just put it in if I just had to work in certain sections. But I figured having a larger door is easier because if I wanted to feed, for example, like a seaweed, I can just kind of drop it in here without having to worry. And then I have 4 cutouts for the lights back there. So I have those 2 that are on there already, and then we're gonna have one more there, one more over there. And yeah, so it's pretty basic cutouts and layouts for this. The one thing is in the back here. The back. So I'm not sure if this is designed this way, but it looks like a lot of people like to run this without the cap on top. So if you run this without the cap, you have the cutout of this here, lining like that, which is fine, I guess. But I figured that it should have went like a little bit further, and I might email them to see if this, could be fixed. But I mean, like technically, I can run it like this, and it'll sit flush on here, and it'll still sit here. It's just on an angle. We'll see. Alright, so after talking with Clearview Lids, it looks like we had assumed that the 165.6 setup was similar to the new tank, but apparently it's not. So everything else like pretty much matched except for the overflow box. So this is from here to here is 4.5, and from the old style was only 4-inch. So that's the only difference there. So they're going to send me a piece, this piece here, just like you saw, it's like jigsaw here. You can just take it apart, so it makes it easy for upgrades down the road. And it's just going to be this one piece here that they're going to remake and send it to me. Everything else, for the most part, fits. Like I said, like it still works, but it just doesn't, fit correctly, and it just bothers me, to be honest. So it's been a few days since I've had the lids on. You see some water splashing from the random generator flow. Like for me, I'm thinking about switching them back to just the default, just because there's so much splashing. I really like the flow that it generates. It's just every time it does the random generate, it splashes, which I guess is not that big of a deal. But the one thing that really annoys me is the way it pulls in water, and it just makes like a siphon, this noise, if you don't have it too deep. And if you have it too deep, obviously like it's just gonna blow sand like this. So like when I have it like that low, it's fine, but when I have it a little bit too high like that, it'll start doing the random like siphons, and it makes the noise. But again, still need to mess around with some stuff. A little bit more algae buildup in the front here. I have not scraped anything, just because if you look really closely, we have a lot of pods that are growing in the tanks. I want them to have this as a resource or a source of food for them to munch on. We did add in one more fish. We have the koi tang back there, and then slowly adding in more snails as we get more algae, right? Obviously, like I want to have like a good amount of snails, but I don't want to overwhelm the tank with too many snails and we don't have any algae. And then diatoms are growing on the rocks as to be expected. We're just gonna let that phase kind of, go through. So there's not much you can do, just kind of, a new tank is gonna have that. We're gonna have build up here. And we're just gonna let that ride, right? The following day I added in another Nem there. So it's been acclimating for, getting used to the tank parameters for about a day and a half. The other one that got shredded over there, we're trying to save that guy, so we'll see. Hopefully, the conditions are right for the Nems. Again, I'm just slowly introducing them into here. Most likely I'll take this divider here and just kind of do a Nem until I can get in the guards for the Nem. In terms of water change, I only had to do that one water change because of the Nem getting shredded up. I don't plan on doing that much water change. I just want to kind of have the tank kind of equalize and find its balance first before doing any water changes. Plus, we don't have that much corals in the tank right now. We'll just kind of, as we introduce more and more corals, I'll start to think about doing water changes. But if we have issues that arise, we'll do the water changes. But if not, we just want to let this figure out, the balance, and then we'll kind of go from there. Now, I don't have that many livestock left to move in. The only other livestock on the rack are just the clownfish. So I have a bunch of the clownfish, a bunch of the snails, and then just some of the Nems. Obviously, the Nems are going to be important. So I just want to make sure that this Nem down here can, survive, do its thing or whatever. Once everything's good there, then we'll transfer the rest of the Nems into this. And then we can move over the other two lights from the outside in here, and then we'll put some of the Nems into this, this basket here as well if we wanted to house some of the Nems. But we'll wait on all that. In terms of wave maker, I can't really find a good balance to kind of like prevent these areas to be blown off. There's not much I can do here because it's already at 10 to 20% in terms of like this is already set down to like 10 to 20%. Yeah, so the only thing I can do is aim those up, but then it'll create a weird suction. Maybe going back to default might be a thing, but again, we'll see. We'll play around, we'll mess around. Yeah, so surprisingly these guys are getting along very well. Obviously they're still flashing each other, trying to show who's boss of the tank, but the tank's so big that if one guy doesn't like it, they'll just kind of sprint down the other end there. But the electrical box here is still on pause. We're just waiting for the lights to go on, right? The other two lights, and then moving in the apex system, and then we'll kind of finalize that. But we'll keep a pause on that for a couple weeks. It's just it has the gyres. And then some other stuff attached to it right now. But yeah, so not much really going on this week. Same old. But yeah, so that is it for the week. If you guys aren't subscribed yet, make sure you guys are subscribed. Like always, the next one, guys. Peace.